Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of NF Twins. So today we want to talk about chip manufacturers for AI. And no, we're not going to talk about Nvidia, because Nvidia, everybody's been talking about it. But today we're going to talk about etched. So Mark, are you ready to jump in and of course outperform Nvidia?
Hell yeah, my boy. What the hell is edged, man? That sounds like, I don't know, sounds like a fucking new hipster clothing brand.
It could be. It could be Hitched. Of course, the hipster brand who just raised 120 million to build a new AI chips. But who am I? But it could be also close. Who knows? But so now let's talk a little bit about it. Because right now, and everybody's talking about. We've seen videos on Instagram, TikTok, etc., where literally Elon Musk, as well as what was the name from Oracle, who went to the founder
Larry Ellison.
Exactly. Went to Nvidia and be like, hey, please, we need more. We need more GPUs because we want to build more data centers. Because in the end, you need to build more bigger data centers because each model that you want to train, each better model needs more data. More data, that means more computing power, etc. That means Nvidia, of course, we've seen it. The stock price is just exploding. It's a $1 trillion company, and it's probably not going to stop because these models will be more and more expensive. And yeah, so this is an upwards trend. So of course, AI infrastructure is currently the hit. Now, why would there even be space for new competitors, Mark? What do you think?
Honestly, I have no idea. So one of the things I think is some of these models are they're all text-based. I'm guessing there's also some others, like other stuff that's video, etc. So they might need different GPUs, I'm guessing.
Well, yes and no. So basically, back in the day when we started, when AI and everything started, there were different LLMs were based on different models. Could be convolutional models or recurrent neural networks. So these were all different types how AI was built. But nowadays, most of them works on the transformer basis, right? So we have here Sora works on it, Stable Diffusion, OpenAI, LLMs like Llama, all of them, they're all based on transformer models. Okay, so transformers, the architecture that it requires. Now, every Nvidia graphics card or AI chip is a generalistic purpose AI hardware, meaning it could basically be used for every type of model, or architecture for the AI.
Okay. So it could be used for transformers, for the convolution or whatever it's called.
Exactly. But what Edge is actually doing, they're focusing completely just on transformers because they're saying, hey, if we bet we're going to be right, because then right now our chips outperform by 2x the ones of Nvidia, by 20x for transformer models. And that means you need to you can have the same performance with 20x less chips, right? So instead of having a gigantic football field, you just need a space.
It's a volleyball court, basically.
Yeah, it makes such a huge difference. And also, of course, faster. It also enables on their website, they're showing how to render a video game in real time, 30 FPS, I think on 360p. So there's all possible because it can calculate so much faster. Because if you build a GPU that is just specifically for one architecture, it makes it 20x faster, right? Because you're just all right, you can just do one thing, but you can do one thing amazing. Whereas currently GPUs can do a lot of things, but just average, right? Well, good enough. Otherwise, these models wouldn't be running that well. So I think that's a very cool approach because it's all or nothing. Because if the architecture changes, the chips will be useless. The founder even says that.
So one of the things that I am just curious about is I also read an article about it. And it said this something about video games. They want to use this for video games. And they were saying also that one of the specific things is that most of the internet is based on video. So in this article it says at least that because it's transformer model, etc., that these GPUs or these processors, these CPUs, they are much, much better at this. But I didn't understand what they were trying to say with AI generated video games in that sense. Can you explain that, Lucas?
Well, honestly, didn't read the article, but we can just guess here, right? Okay, because in the end it says more than 70% of it is video, and of course, if you can process way more faster video and stuff like this, makes it just much easier. So, for example, physics and games, etc.
Yeah, but then it's just there's nothing to do with AI. Then I don't know. That's just prediction. Or are we talking about upscaling? You know what Nvidia does, upscaling, from 1080 to 4K, that could be it. The pixel that it upscales, because otherwise, I'm not sure. Like the physics, the math, etc. These rules are not AI
Well,
generated, right?
but
Like the rules would be different.
okay, I kind of my guess is because in the end, AI video models need to also understand the physics of gaming worlds, right? Because in the end, like what is best to learn how to actually create a video is to understand the physics behind it, right? So, for example, the motions, how the waves run, and stuff like this. If you want to have a perfect video of the model, like generated, you need to understand the physics behind it, because in the end it's like in video games, yes, you can already see like some of these physics, that's why you have physics engines, but of course if you want to have a perfect AI generated video, you need to understand the physics behind the objects in which you want to build it. That's my assumption, and I think that's what I'm getting out here when I'm just like flying over this article very quickly, and it makes it like right now it's super expensive and slow, but you can do it much 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 faster with the new chips because they're just focusing on that one.
Okay, Lucas, give me some stats on the business. So how much did they raise? When did they start?
So they raised 120 million, I think, in 2022. So they built it in the last 2 years. They were just focusing on building a new hardware chip. Well, the graphics, well, the dedicated AI chips, which is for me quite impressive. I'm not sure where they already live. I mean, you can only go get in contact with them. Mark, did you find where they're already live? Like, I think in.
I saw that on the website that you can go on the wait list.
Yeah, so I mean,
So you get
because
early
also
access, I guess.
I mean, that's also one of the things, right? Even though you have even if you have the best product, aka 20x faster, if you can't scale it, they're not interested in it, right? Because in the end, it's like, hey, Twitter wants to build a new AI supercomputer. Okay, then Etched, there's like, okay, I can only produce 1,000 chips. Then like, well, that's not even worth for me doing it, right? So I think that's something that they need to figure out how to fastly scale it. Of course, I mean, I'm sure they're working on that for sure.
But I
But
think
if
that's one of the things is like they wouldn't go to the biggest big boys, right? But there could be like to upcoming, like for example, Hugging Face. These kind of things would be fantastic for that kind of stuff because they don't need to train new models, right? They just need to host models. And if this is really, really much, much more efficient, that's fucking epic for them.
But why wouldn't you? Because in the end, it's like, think about it. They can't get chips from Nvidia, right? Meaning,
well,
right
because they
now, it's
can't
never
produce
been.
the amount. I mean,
Yeah,
that's why.
well, maybe they. I'm not sure, right? But let's imagine they could just get one client. They directly said, because right now, I think it's been never easier because there's such a demand to sell big contracts, right? If you think about it, normally B2B, if you have really big contracts, it takes a long period of time because you're like, oh, you need the due diligence. You need, oh, am I talking to the right person? But if the need is big enough, and in this case, all the big companies, like, because there's only Nvidia as a provider, they're running to Nvidia, and Nvidia's like, hey guys,
All
there's
right, the
only thing
question
we're
is
going to
this,
produce.
Lucas. So one of the things is Nvidia, it might be the bottleneck in that sense, but what if the bottleneck is TSMC? Because even Nvidia gets their chips from Taiwan, from TSMC, right?
Yeah.
So all of them are getting their shit in Taiwan until in the US creates a super factory to create the CPUs at the bases based on silicon. They're gonna have problems. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, this is I think also why China might be interested more in Taiwan, etc., and political side stuff.
Yeah.
And the US is very, very defensive about it because if you think about it, all these companies and in their sense also the world is run on these chips that are coming out of Taiwan, which is crazy.
Valid point. But then it's a question again, which one is more efficient, right? Because, like, for example, if you need the same amount of chips,
100%.
like
I'm not
space,
talking about this. I think it's a good point, etc. But I think end of the day it comes down to right
that's
now.
true.
Can you get these chips? Because I mean, there's always shortage. Well, the last couple of years have been shortages, but most of them stuff came also from Taiwan and etc. The shortage because people are buying in such much like bigger quantities that it didn't make sense, or you could only get them at a premium, right?
That actually brings me to a interesting talk about GPUs. Interesting fact that I didn't know before, because I mean we've all been
Crazy.
using the H100 from Nvidia, so like to produce like basically run models, etc. Well, I think we're using the B200 or B100, one of the two. But if you look about it, look when you're released, like 2022, and then now the B100, something like this. Look,
Oh,
no,
wow.
H200. Sorry, we're using the H200. Man, they're not even that much faster in itself, they're just like they're putting more chips onto the platine or on it to make it like process more, right? So basically, instead of two chips, they put 4 on there, right? So it's like instead of the RAM itself might not be faster, I just put more on it. So it's like with GPUs, what we're seeing in general when for gamers out there, like what do? They just like increase the wattage. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Increase the wattage so they have like more computing power. And at the
Fuck
same
cooling. Who needs that? Fuck that shit.
Exactly. I mean, there's so many memes when people are like, hey, when you buy everything and everything top notch, and then the power supply from AliExpress. Entire model just fucks. By the way, the model is called, or the chip is called Zohu. Probably butchering the name of it here. Yeah, cool. But it looks really cool. The website looks very clean. If you look at it, look, they can process.
You know what? Also, one of the things that blows my mind, Lucas,
per second.
They're only 11 to 50 people. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I think if you're, well, 2 years, so it's
yeah, bro. But I mean, at the end of the day, also, how many people do you need for this? I mean, hardware is usually a lot of people, but this kind of stuff, all these stuff are automized, right? These are factories.
Exactly. That's also my point that what you mentioned, right? In the end, yes, of course, like you need to have the design, but you're still relying on what is TSMC. Basically, well, you give them the designs and then they do it, right? Because they're like building these factories is so expensive and have knowledge, so they basically just build the architecture and then send it out there to actually have it built. Yeah, which is, I think, really, really interesting. But for me, it's still mind-blowing. Think about it. What a move from the founders itself, which I think is saying, hey, we're seeing the trend. If it's Transformers, exactly, it's a gamble. They're saying, we're seeing the trend to Transformers. If the architecture stays Transformers, we have a competitive edge over the biggest player that is. Like, I mean, not even AMD, who has been like around forever. AI, they've completely missed that train. And then you're seeing that like they're coming out of nowhere. And if that's gonna work, this company will be worth very fast a lot of money. So I think that's very cool.
So okay, quick side note. So to create one of these factories for chips, it costs between 10 to 20 billion.
I wanted to guess, sir. I would have guessed more, to be honest. But
I mean, this is some of them. I think there's gigafactories. I think what the US would want to build is probably bigger, just to be not reliable on someone else. But it's fucking insane how big they are. And also, this also reminds me of what you said, Lucas, before. I watched a reel today, and was the founder of Nvidia. He was saying, so our chips are that good that even if the competition would sell theirs give away there for free, users would still buy ours, because it's not about the price, it's about the cost of running them, right? Yeah. How much time, etc. is much, much higher. So that thing might be then fantastic for this new startup, because if they actually are that much faster, time is money. Exactly, 20x faster. Also, it doesn't matter if it's only
infrastructure.
Everything. If they're just like, if they're trash in a year, fucking year, they're fucking killing it. So yeah, it's a great opportunity, I think. Just wanted to give that caveat.
Okay, Mark. Cool. Also talk about because you talked the factory costs were what, 10 to 15 billion?
20,
what it was? Okay, Tesla mega factory. For those who guess, Mark, the cost, production cost.
Wow, bro, when you say it like that, I know.
The gigafactory.
30
billion. It costs 10 billion. So like, and that is a huge ass factory, and it costs 10 billion. So just to get a like estimate, the other one is almost twice the price.
Oh my god, Samsung just built one for 25 billion.
Wow.
Boy.
Crazy.
That is crazy. Wild.
All right, everybody. I think basically summing up, really cool what they're doing at Edge. Love it. And also like 20x, going niche, and then like beating the biggest play in the market. I'm excited to see, or we're excited to see what's going to happen in the next, half a year or year when they actually go live, when we're seeing probably big announcements from them, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I just double checked again. There's some of them that go up to 100 billion. They're just so, for example, TSMC announced tripling their investment to 40 billion into a new plant in Arizona.
Holy shit.
Intel Corporation announced a 20 billion Ohio chip plant factory that could be expanded to 100 billion investment.
But Intel is shit right now.
Doesn't
Intel is
matter.
just
They can
they
just create chips.
bro, they
And
shit
then
the bed. I've seen
Micron
like
Technology, Lucas, 100 billion in New York. So they like total 200 billion. That's crazy.
it is a lot, but I just like talking about Intel, man, because I was looking for new CPUs. And like I think the Archer architecture,
Oof.
they fucked it up so badly that it's just like running like DOSing the computers and stuff like this. And then
Oh,
the other
really?
one where they have the RAM slotted on in the CPU is like the only thing they have, bro. It's a mess. So I mean, always liked for gaming computers because in the end, like they're better than AMD mostly. I mean, even though I'm running an AMD
Not anymore,
system,
my boy.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, we'll see, but let's see. All right, everybody. I'm a big fan what they're doing. Etched. Excited to see what are going to happen in the next months, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, guys, please let us know in the comment section below if you like more news like this. And yeah, of course, give it a subscribe. And of course, catch you next one. Peace.